There's tons of people who sell tokens, who promote tokens, or to promote different types of trading, even open classes, even though their trade is actually the loss, but they open classes to even fund their losses, basically. There is scholars who still debating of this is halal or haram.
Yeah.
And then across the people who said halal, they even debating is this coin halal or haram, right? It's even deeper discussion, even deeper debates.
Is Islamic finance fundamentally different, or is it all just the same?
So the very interesting thing is that.
Hello, welcome, assalamu alaikum, to our roundtable sessions. Today we have Ustadz Devin in Indonesia, Jakarta, to share with us his views and his thoughts on various Islamic finance topics. We're going to debunk a few myths, uncover a few areas that require a bit more interpretation and explanation, and hopefully you'll find it very, very insightful. So Ustadz Devin, welcome to today's roundtable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I guess, look, in this part of the world, in the Asia Pacific, there's a lot of evolution and rapid evolution and change in Islamic finance. So let's start off with one of the things that's quite buzzy these days. Around, people talk about DeFi, they talk about blockchain, they talk about crypto, all these things, and everyone seems to have a view on it, whether it's halal or not, what conditions people should look for, what Sharia standards there are around this. So keen to get your perspective on this particular area.
Thank you very much. So in terms of the DeFi itself, right, the crypto spaces and everything else, obviously Asia has a lot of development apart from the US. So there's tons of development in China. There's obviously Binance and Bybit is based in China, right? And then we have Singaporean rules on Bitcoin and everything else that allows even Singaporean to pay properties in Bitcoin. And right now here in Indonesia, at the moment, crypto is acknowledged as financial assets under financial, basically like Indonesian SEC. Okay. Basically, that's what it is. And I think across Asia, that's how crypto is treated legally. So they are considered as either financial assets or basically like digital property, but it's still under the same financial institution regulation. So in terms of the how crypto is perceived here, obviously there is still a lot of speculative thoughts, and especially in Indonesia and a couple of Southeast Asia nations, the futures is still the most known and the most famous product. Okay. The futures and everything else, and that's really comes to the perception that crypto is still the quick rich asset type of thing. I don't know if it is correct or not, but obviously that's pushed towards the quick pump and dump schemes and lots of scammers. And money laundering. Money laundering is behind the scene, obviously. But there is tons of people who sell tokens, who promote tokens, or to promote different types of trading, even open classes, even though their trade is actually the loss, but they open classes to even fund their losses, basically. There's tons of scams here in terms of the negative sides. In terms of the positive sides, there is a lot of utilization of the crypto technology itself in terms of developing different projects that actually influence people. So here in Indonesia, for example, we have blockchain utilization for farmers, and then there is zakat in blockchain as well. In Indonesia, even in Malaysia as well. In Malaysia or Singapore, there's wakaf-based blockchain. Really? Yeah. Okay. Obviously, in the broader area, there is tons of utilization, for example, carbon trading. And then another one is for the health service, if I not forget. And so in terms of the technology itself, there is a more use case of it in terms of the real world cases, basically. But in terms of the speculative type of thing, it's still also being a big narrative here in the crypto world here in Asia Pacific.
Because oftentimes, you know, when people talk about this particular topic, they usually separate between cryptocurrencies and then in the blockchain.
Yep.
Because the blockchain technology, that's simply technology in and of itself. It's a technology sort of platform, really.
Yep.
And that in and of itself, nothing wrong with that. Blockchain technology is, you know,
it's
simplified.
Okay.
It's an open ledger. But what the use cases of blockchain are, there's so many. You've mentioned a few that are, you know, in relation to waqf and all these things. But at the same time, it can be used for as a currency as well. So then the question is, okay, in your view, and based on your, you know, Islamic interpretation and things, you know, should Muslims or can Muslims, from a Sharia perspective, be investing into, you know, your mainstream cryptocurrencies, your Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these kinds of things, and then you have all your, you know, the funny coins that have popped up.
Yeah, the memes.
A meme coin, this coin, that coin. There's coin for everything under the sun now. So a lot of Muslims, as you said, get roped into these, you know, get rich quick schemes, and maybe due to a lower level of financial literacy, or maybe sometimes out of almost like being in a desperate financial position, they see one person was successful out of it, and they say, look, if I give it a go, I'll be successful as well, and that's my ticket to the promised land. So what's the Islamic perspective on this?
Yeah, so the interesting thing, before I jump into Islamic perception about it, is that if you know a bit more about the blockchain and the crypto itself, I kind of think that crypto and blockchain is kind of two sides of the coin. You cannot be separate one or the other. The thing is, like, for example, if you are Ethereum based developer, you cannot access the Ethereum itself unless you have the Ether, right? And the Ether who runs the nodes to keep the network going, they have to be incentivized, right? You cannot just incentivize them with the US dollar or everything. It has to be something that related to the technology itself. That's why it's kind of coexist. It's coexist between the coin. If we know the separation between coin and token. Token is something that built on the blockchain, and there is coin who are native to the blockchain. That blockchain and coin cannot be separated. I mean, there's tons of networks, layer ones, who has their own tokens, and that is basically a ticket, basically to their own blockchain. For example, if you want to use Solana blockchain to build something, you have to have the Solar, right? How you access the Solana itself without the ticket? Basically, if it is public, you have the ticket. If it is private, then it's good. You can do whatever you want. You build your own blockchain privately. You only allow a couple of people to get in and everything else. But if it is public, how you distinguish people who come without permission and come without permission? That's through the coin, right? The possession of the coin means the permission to use the blockchain. That's, in my opinion, is why crypto and blockchain as a technology cannot be separated from each other. And that's why, in terms of investing in blockchain or in crypto, we have to look to the relation between the token of the coin with what they are representing, right? In terms of, for example, I invested in Ethereum. I know Ethereum has 4,000 projects now under their wings. So that's already proof that this technology is working, even though it's expensive and everything else. I mean, Ethereum is the most expensive network in terms of gas fee, right? But it's still, that 4,000 project is a proof that this is something beneficial, and it can be used in halal or haram way, right? So I can invest in something neutral, basically. I can buy a knife to basically have my own store and everything else, or use it to stab my mother, basically. That's the way I look at some of this crypto. So if you have, you know, the relationship between the crypto, either coin or token, to what they're representing, it can be representing a lot of things. I mean, obviously, Ethereum is representing its own blockchain, and there's tons of that, either layer 1 or layer 2, for example. And then you have something that called real world asset. It representing either stocks or either property
or gold,
even gold, right? And then you have something that's a little bit different, like utility token. It representing future services, so you can use it to fundraise, for example. So there's tons of utilization of blockchain and crypto that's halal. But before we judge this halal or haram, you have to understand the basics of the projects. You have to understand what this coin representing, because maybe the project is halal, but the coin isn't really related to the project. There's a couple of things like that. I learned a couple of networks where I think this coin means nothing to this.
It's synthetic, yeah.
Either synthetic or it's just doesn't have any relationship with the project. So, or even if it has relationship, it's not really strong or even halal at some certain. So, even the underlying project is halal, the relationship with the coin is not strong or it's not even halal. For example, I still look at something like liquid stacking at something that I don't think is lawful at the moment.
Okay.
So that's the fancy stuff. I mean, what is liquid stacking and everything else? I look at liquid stacking as non-halal transaction because it represents nothing basically. But
can you explain that?
So liquid staking is when you stake something. For example, you stake Solana, you get the representation of the Solana in the new token. Basically, it's a representation of Solana that's been staked to the other networks, and then you use that to stake in other networks to get return. So basically, you use this that represents something that already being used, to use that as the coin that it represents in other networks.
So that's a very sort of third degree, fourth degree relationship. It's very disconnected from.
Yeah, exactly, and it represents nothing because the asset is used elsewhere. How you say I have this token elsewhere to do job in different places? That's kind of even more scammy than money printing basically. So that's why I think it's unlawful in terms of that sense, and it represents uncertainty because it can be burned easily because the underlying is there, not in our hands. We only held the liquid staking. So that sort of relationship and everything, we need to learn about that. And I have a friend that even more deeper in that subject, as he learned the source code. Is there any code that prevents people to basically have a qabd hukmi, which is the possession, the complete possession of the stuff, because there is tokens that contains some sort of code that can force the sale or even lock the token.
A kill switch.
That sort of thing is unlawful in Islam because it represents the incomplete possession of the stuff, which is represent the haramness in terms of sell and buy transaction. Because we sell something, we take full possession of it, but if we have something that's not complete, can be forced to sell, can be locked. That's not complete. That's not halal, right? That's not perfect as a transaction in Islam.
Interesting. Okay, so what you've explained is really insightful. But how does the everyday Muslim who is busy with life overall and has not a very high degree of financial literacy, leave alone all these complex things, how do they determine these intricate features? Like, for example, the relationship between the token and the underlying currency and all the. How does somebody find all of that?
That's why there is some websites who provide that, right? I cannot say the name basically, but there's tons of websites who provide this halal, this haram. Obviously, if you compare those websites, there's different opinions.
I was going to say that. Yeah, that's the thing.
Basically, the ikhtilaf.
Everyone's version of halal is different. It's interpretation. It's open to a lot of subjectivity.
Basically, the interesting thing is there is scholars who still debating of this is halal or haram. And then across the people who said halal, they even debating is this coin halal or haram, right? It's even deeper discussion, even deeper debates. But if you have these websites and then you can see this is halal, this is haram, it's much easier for you to invest in those things, right? At least you invest in something that's basically known as halal in all those websites, so there's no debate, no everything. For example, you invest in Ethereum or you invest in Bitcoin or you invest in something that's already known as halal in all those websites, that will be better, right? Rather than invest in something that's gray, red. I mean, that sort of, we don't know is it halal or haram, or we know it is definitely haram. It's much better to see these 3, 4, 5 websites and then, oh, this is halal, 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 and then we invest in those.
I have a question. You know, a lot of people talk about FX trading. And they say, okay, trading normal FX, according to some scholars and some madhabs and things, is impermissible.
Yep.
And then they say, okay, well, you know, crypto and these currencies being just another currency, therefore trading these currencies is also impermissible because FX trading is impermissible. What's your view on that? Starting with the FX part, and then does that same, I guess, ideology or philosophy apply then to, you know, DeFi?
The thing about FX trading itself is that, in my opinion, as far as I know, as few as I know, they are not representing the real trade of the currencies itself. At least as I know, in a couple of countries, especially in Indonesia. In Indonesia, we call contract for difference. The CFD. The CFD itself is not representing the transaction between dollar or rupiah, for example, or euro and dollar, for example.
It's a derivative. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a derivative representing the difference between different exchange rates over time, right? So if you buy it at, for example, if you buy rupiah and dollar at 16,000, and then you hold those positions, you don't have the dollar itself, right?
Yep.
You only have the rupiah that's still locked, and then you hold it over time until it reaches the current rate of 70,000. You have this 1,000 spread, right? You only get those 1,000 spread times the leverage if you use the leverage, right? There is no changing from rupiah to dollar.
Yeah.
That's the issue with CFD. And the FX trading in, at least in Indonesia or in other countries, I don't know if there is FX trading who actually provide that much dollar to be traded in their own websites, right? That must be a big bang then.
Of course. And the underlying rationale for that is what you referred to earlier, was that in order, in terms of Sharia, in order for you to sell something, you must have possession of it.
Exactly.
Whereas in this case, because nothing's actually transferred or nothing's exchanged hands, there's no ownership.
You just speculate, basically.
Yeah.
So if there is, if you know the structure of the futures or CFD market, it's kind of separate into two, right? The short and the long. So you predict the short and you predict the long, right? So this market has to be always zero sum at the time. So there is only transfer of, for example, if we say in Indonesia, rupiah from the loser to the winner and vice versa. So there's no real exchange of the currencies itself. We just speculate, and then in that specific market, it has to be balanced between winner and loser. It has to be zero sum. That's why there is a couple of cases where people who wins big actually only have fraction of what they actually won.
Yeah.
Because their position is the leveraged to basically balance the market, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really an investment. It's not even a transaction. It's a speculation between two fighting parties. So that in Islam is called maisir, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's called that, and that's why it's haram in terms of the FX trading. In terms of the crypto, there is futures crypto market which is work the same exact way as FX market. So there is unfortunately here futures crypto market is promoted massively.
Okay.
Yeah, massively. If you look at these streets of Sudirman, there is massive
billboards,
massive billboards with times 25 futures, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's kind of legal to borrow it here at that massive level of scale, but that's the same work as the FX market, right? It's a futures market, only two people, winner or loser. You play the leverage to maximize your position, but market has to be balanced. It's a speculation between two parties, right? And then there is spot crypto market, where you actually buy the token, save the token if you save it in your custodial wallet, and non-custodial wallet, or if you just put it in your DEX account or checks account or everything. That's represent the proper possession of the stuff, right?
Okay.
That's basically you own this much. If you put it in checks, then you basically do the wadi'ah. So you put it in their wallet to keep it safe, or you put it in your hot or cold wallet yourself to keep it safe. It's almost like putting gold in your own house bank.
Yeah, you're safe.
Yeah, in your own deposit box and everything. So it's kind of halal in terms of just transaction. We don't talk about is the crypto halal or haram, but if the spot market is the one for investors to go, then it's halal in terms of the basic law of it, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's other stuff like Solana 3L, which represented derivative 3 times long of the Solana, and obviously that's haram derivatives of Solana, but that's a different matter completely.
Yeah. It's interesting. You know, when we look at, for example, Islamic finance in this region,
Yep.
You know, people often describe, for example, let's say Malaysia as being almost like the laboratory for Islamic finance. A lot of people go there, they develop a lot of things, there's a lot of innovation taking place.
Yep.
You know, from an Islamic perspective, what's your view on how much innovation is acceptable and how much is just going too far? Have we, as Islamic finance as a sector, are we being innovative enough? Are we pushing too hard? Are we being too conservative? Where do you feel right now? Have we got the right balance? Because just to add to this, I think a big question that a lot of people have within the community is that they tend to see that the imam or the sheikh or the ustad is, you know, they're very strong at matters of, ibadat.
Yep.
Where if you go and ask a sheikh about wudu, salat, tahara, hajj, zakat, nikah, talaq, they know these things. But when it comes to, you know, more things around muamalat, and especially around bay'ah and all these things, then there is generally a lot less capacity in those areas because they're quite new, they require a lot of, let's call it secular education as well. So that's where I think people have a lot less confidence in a lot of imams and sheikhs and alims and ustads around, okay, if I go and ask him and if he's unsure, straight away, what will he say? Haram. He'll say, don't do it. And the moment I know that it's haram or I can't do it, that means I can't do it. So I'd rather not ask the question and just keep doing it I please. And, you know, bas khalas, you know, ignorance is bliss. So on that point, you know, in this part of the world, how is that all going?
Yeah, very interesting. Actually, there's different opinions, obviously, on different financial transactions. The interesting thing about what you said is that there is tons of scholars who are not well educated in different worldly stuff. And I will take it even broader than just finance. For me, the perfect scholar, for example, for doctors, should be a doctor, right? You cannot ask about how I do salah when I do 12-hour surgery.
Yeah.
If people who you are asking doesn't know.
True.
Because you cannot say just leave your surgery package and just do salah. That's not even allowed in the surgery room, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of thing still lacks a lot of knowledge from our scholars in health, even in technology, in finance. Technology itself doesn't always around the finance, right? For example, how is it halal to do nikah by Zoom, for example? Or, you know, is it halal to do nikah just by chat or even by stuff like that?
Yeah.
And in finance, obviously, we know the cryptocurrency and everything else. How to, for example, how to do digital gold selling, which is now viral here in Indonesia as a case, because everybody wants to buy gold, but there's no physical gold available in shops, so they buy the digital golds. So there is tons of lack of understanding of the current context, in my opinion, in our scholars. And sometimes that either leads to two stuff. One is the fatwa that is short in terms of the context, or either they just say haram. So it can be halal, but even when it is halal, it's not completely correct.
Mashkuk. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not mashkuk. It's still, they understand it's halal, but it's not, they don't cover the whole context of it. So when they say it's halal because of this, and then the people who ask still kind of have a doubt, because basically he thinks the scholar doesn't really understand what I'm feeling, right?
Yes.
Even though it's halal, if he just hear and do it, it's good. But some people just think he doesn't really understand what I'm thinking. He might even think that's haram when the scholar says halal, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just to be less strict. It can be the other way, basically. And that's exactly what happened with FX trading, right?
Yes.
Some scholars say it's halal because they know it's just a dollar and to rupiah and everything, but at the back end of it, you know what happens, right? So it can be lead to make something haram halal, as opposed to just make something haram halal. Basically, is what it is, right? So in terms of that, I think the issue, I will raise this issue amongst my fellow scholars, especially the younger ones who are still coming back from their education. I think you have to be humble enough, basically, to learn from the expert in their area. For example, if you are trying to do, for example, fiqh muamalah da'wah, I think it's very humble of you if you can come to exchanges people, ask them a couple of things, maybe even work there 2-3 years, maybe have some connections in the industry. And the interesting thing is, you never put yourself above the other people, right? The issue that other scholars have when they engage these practitioners in the area is that you put yourself as a mufti, superior to them. When you put yourself as superior to them, they will not uncover the whole information they have. But we want to be like friends, we want to be like their peers, their equals, so they are open to tell everything to us. So for example, if you know Mr. Fajar that's here, he is more, when I ask something, I tell him something, he will be more open to me than to the other scholars, right? So I'm not comparing it, but because I put myself in their shoes, and I've been in their shoes as well. I mean, I work in startups, I work in banks and everything. So I know what they are feeling. So I put myself in their shoes to understand their problems completely. So when I say this is haram or halal, or this, you can make this halal with this, but this can be haram with this, and things like that. It's have the full context. It is comprehensive, and the thirdly is emphatic. So it's logical, it's academic, but it also have emotional attachment to it. So I know what you are feeling, but this is what Allah said. So it kind of make our da'wah more emotional, more emotionally touching in terms of the in fact that we understand them, and also make our fatwa is stronger in terms of the understanding of the logical things and dalil. So we match the perfect dalil with the perfect case. So it's perfect. So it become the right lock, right? Sometimes what happens is they said this is dalil blah blah blah, but the case doesn't really fit that dalil itself. So even if you put 100 dalil against one case, if it's not fit, it's not fit. It's that simple, right?
Because sadly, a lot of times the response that's given is a very textbook response.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, well, this is what it says in, for example, Hidayah says this, or this book says this, or this book says that. Whereas, okay, in today's world, we have to, again, our belief as Muslims is that Sharia is there for all times, okay, for every era. Yes, it came from the Prophet ﷺ 1400 plus years ago, but it's applicable today, it'll be applicable forever. But again, it's a scholar's responsibility to, interpret and adapt that to, the modern era, the modern context. That was very powerful. So that's where, again, where the work that you're doing with, adapting traditional, authentic dalil and from source from Quran and Hadith to today's circumstances is very, very powerful.
So there is an interesting hadith that people doesn't see the proper value of it. The hadith of Shubhat, Innal halala bayyinun wa innal harama bayyinun wa bainahuma umurun mushtabihat la ya'lamhu kathirun minan nas. So the haram is clear, the halal is clear, and then there is Shubhat. But there is an interesting phrase after that. La ya'lamhu kathirun minan nas. There is tons of people who doesn't know it, but it doesn't mean the whole ecosystem doesn't know it. There's people who actually understand it, and actually the responsibility of the scholars to understand those pockets of unknownness amongst the awam, the normal people. So the scholars has to be understand more than the the normal folks, basically, right? And that's when the scholars actually stop in terms of he just learned the dalil and everything, but there's this shubhat that you have to learn. Maybe you come to the conclusion and tell people this is haram or halal, so the shubhat is getting smaller. That's what happens, for example, with crypto. If you think about crypto and Islamic capital market as well, for example, bonds is haram, right, in terms of the Sharia law of it. But and then there is scholars who went for something a little bit more. They learn about how to make these bonds still serve its purpose as a project financing or capital working finance from capital market and make it halal.
Yeah.
And then there is sukuk as a product of it. So these scholars who actually developed those products, they went a long way to actually break through that shubhat lines. They learn, oh, this transaction is halal, this transaction is haram. So they know more. The more you know, the smaller the shubhat, basically, because the shubhat is judged based on the knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? As in hadith, they said, Prophet Muhammad said, "La ya'lamuhu kathirun minan nas al-ilm," the knowledge. There's tons of people who doesn't know it. That means from mafhum mukhalafah understanding from usul fiqh, there is small amount of people who actually understand that. So the scholar's job is to be that small amount of people understand cases that people doesn't understand, right? But that means to be humble enough to learn the case, to be humble enough to go deeper from worldly knowledge, to understand, for example, if you work in muamalah, you understand the finance better. If you are mufti in medicine, you understand the medication better, or even in something like aviation.
Yes,
you have to learn more about the aviation itself, even in energy sector. For example, right now there is a question about the halalness or the lawfulness of the carbon trading.
Yep.
Then you have to understand what carbon trading is, what the market carbon is, what the offset is, how the offset is done, what is the regulation and everything like that, until you said, okay, carbon trading is halal if this like that, right? So I think it's scholars' responsibility to actually done that and to be solution for their people, not just saying it's halal or haram, right?
We could go on for hours, Sheikh, about talking about this stuff. I have one thing to debunk with you, right? You often hear people saying, and this is not just in this region, I think it's around the world, where people generally say that the Islamic finance is just the same as conventional finance.
Yep.
It's all one thing. It's all just one big game. Behind the scenes, it's all the banks, and it's all the non-Muslims, and it's all this and it's all that. How do you respond to that? Being somebody who is sort of in the know from a Sharia perspective, and also understanding the financial side of it as well. Is Islamic finance fundamentally different, or is it all just the same?
So the very interesting thing is that we have, for example, I have two restaurants. For example, we come to two restaurants. One is trying to make their food good, even though their food is still bad, and then there is one that this is my food, you eat it or not,
take it or leave it. Yeah.
Take it or leave it, right? Which one is the better one between these two? It's the one who still wants to improve, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens with Islamic finance and conventional finance. Conventional finance is like, this is riba, this is what we do, take it or leave it, right? And there's Islamic finance, we are not perfect, but we are trying to do better. We are trying to get close to non-riba finance. Is it logical to say the two is the same?
Yeah.
It's obviously not. Even though the result of this is still close to this one, this is trying to improve. Allah also, give us the reward of the effort, right?
Yes.
That's in terms of the godly perspective. But in terms of the worldly perspective, obviously this one is the better, right? And we might hope that by supporting this one, he will get better. Because people sometimes easy to critique,
very easy,
very hard to support.
Yeah.
So for example, if they said that Islamic banking, some of the contracts or even all of the contracts is the same as conventional, the easiest way to support those Islamic banks to be perfectly Islamic is to support capital.
Yep.
Then you don't use this bank to do your transaction, to do your, everything. Then you inject capital to them. You open your savings account in Islamic banking and everything else. So when they have enough capitals, they have freedom to do whatever they want in Islamic way.
Yeah.
So it's not just a 1 or 0, black and white. There's transitional progress. And in Islam, if you know about the riba state of ayah, there's four steps, right? The one is not even saying riba is haram. The other is already said riba is haram in certain conditions. And then there is the third that say riba is haram, but it only if it's co-funding, which is Al Imran 130. And then the last one is the Al-Baqarah 275, right? Which is saying the riba is completely haram. And that set of verse is coming late in Prophet Muhammad SAW life. So if that's what happens in the years of Nubuwah, with the very strong Islamic society and growing Islamic country, right now we are in the world of riba, right? So how you expect the change to be as rapid? Basically, you have to be a little bit more have a little bit more tolerance towards our Muslim brothers and sisters who are trying to at least improve it one at a time, a little bit, rather than say, what you do is haram, just come to us. Then you come to this one who doesn't even want to improve. That's even worse.
True. Just adding on to that, I guess, if you look at, for example, in a country like Indonesia or Malaysia, which is generally a Muslim country.
Yep.
So over here, the laws and regulations are there to support Islamic financial products and services. And in order for somebody to certify or to have their product certified as being Sharia compliant, there is a regulatory obligation as well.
Yep.
Now, in non-Muslim countries, let's say for example UK, Australia, US, other countries like that, where there is like the regulatory side looks at whether you have compliance with regulatory requirements, not so much faith requirements. Say, look, your faith is your prerogative, you take care of that.
Yep.
And then over there, what ends up happening is that because there is not a universally agreed sort of concept or definition of what is Sharia compliant, you get so many different shades of Sharia compliant.
Yes.
So that's something that Muslims in those countries really find very, very challenging. What's your perspective on that? Where even within Asia, for example, you have countries that are, let's call them non-Muslim countries, or non-Muslim majority countries, where the rule of law is not an Islamic rule of law. So in those countries, for service providers or even imams and sheikhs and Sharia boards, it's not that easy. It's not very clear, black and white.
Yeah.
How do people sort of navigate those challenges?
Yeah, the interesting thing is that even in Muslim majority countries, like here in Indonesia, there's almost two factions of Islamic finance type of
even
thought.
Here, okay.
There's the comprehensive one and the regulatory who follows the regulation, everything. The interesting fact of that is, even in other topics, there is different opinions on that. For example, even to my closest relatives, there is opinion that if you read Fatihah as a ma'mum in Salah, it's mandatory.
Okay.
You have to read Fatihah as a ma'mum in Salah, in Jama'ah. And then there is another opinion that said it wasn't mandatory at all. So, according to this one who said the Fatihah reading is mandatory, us who doesn't read Fatihah, our Salah is not even right.
Yeah.
So, this type of different vision of Sharia is always happen in different shapes of form and in different types of fiqh, right? So it's already happened in Salah, it's obviously happened in Muamalah, right?
Of course.
So in terms of navigating that's the very tricky questions to actually answer, because there is people who said just follow what you are believing. The question is, these people is normal folks, they don't have that compass to actually navigate through that. How you say follow what you are believing?
Yeah.
If you follow who you are believing and he's wrong, you are wrong.
Yeah.
It's very simple, right? For me, the interesting thing, if you talk about specific in finance and something that's very related to the world, I think the best, for me personally, the best way to navigate it is to know the level of understanding of the scholars in terms of this particular case. So for example, you can debate the dalil all day long, but you can understand this one, understand the case. This one doesn't understand that case. I think that's the much easier way to choose which one to follow for normal folks. Because for example, people who are data engineer, and then he is asking his job in data engineering for example, let's say about conglomerates who has banks, for example. And then this one says haram, and then this one says halal. But this one doesn't understand that these conglomerates have business other than banks, for example. And this one actually learn a lot of the private finance and learn a lot about conglomeration and everything else. He said it's halal because the banking is maybe 10%. This one said haram because there's banks, so everything is haram. These two have different opinions but different understanding, right? I think I would choose the one who has more understanding of the topic.
Yeah.
Even there is this is the case in Indonesia, but it's not viral. But I somewhat caught up and think about it quite a long time. There is a people who work in data center. If you know data center industry,
yes,
is the lawfulness in Islam to learn in data center who has banking clients. So the first scholar who doesn't really understand what data center is, it based on how much your client is banking, right? And it's haram if it's majority. That's it. That's the simplest answer that the scholar who doesn't understand what data center is will provide. The other scholar who actually understand what data center is will dig even deeper. The question will be, it's not even the question, he will understand that the data center will not just process the loan application, right? It process the transfer of money, of course. Basically, if you say that it's haram because conventional bank, there is tons of normal daily life money transaction that still happen in commercial bank that happens in those data centers, basically. So you cannot judge that data center 100% is loan processing machine. No,
it's not.
It's maybe not even 10% if you just look at the number of data, number of transactions that are coming in. So in that sort of case, then maybe the second scholar will say it's halal.
Yeah.
Because even though the client is conventional banking, 90% of the data process is still our normal life transaction.
Yeah.
It's not even haram. Even the scholars that say haram himself will do that transaction once in a while. For example, if you use QRIS or QR to pay food, and then the bank is Mandiri, for example, in Indonesia, that's still gonna process in those same data center, right?
Sure.
Right. That's the difference between the one who just have a small understanding of the industry and the one who understand the industry thoroughly.
So Devin, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you very much.
So I think we could go on for a long time and unpack a lot more. I had a lot of questions, but mashallah, your responses are very thorough and very detailed. So it was a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you very much. And to our listeners, I hope you found it insightful and informative. And to our listeners and viewers, I hope you found it insightful and beneficial. Lots of information shared today. We could have gone on for a lot longer, but obviously time is limited. So we thank Ustadz Devin for his time, and till next time, hopefully we bring on another insightful and wonderful guests. And for everybody else, keep on listening, keep on watching. Thank you.